and welcome to another VueJS Athens meetup. We are very pleased to have you here, and also we're very happy to have Daniel with us and Emma. Without further ado, I want to thank you, all of you, and also thank the sponsors. Okay, CTJS Athens for providing us tickets, and also Allwin for providing us the space and etc. So let's start with Emma. Big applause for Emma.
Okay, so I'm going to have a quick talk about the Vue migration. Just before I begin, to say a couple of things. I don't know if this will work, but I will try. Okay, so I'm Emma. Maybe some of you may know me. I work here at Allwin as a lead software engineer. I'm a front developer, and I'm involved in the Vue Athens meetup. If you want to connect with me, you can reach out to me. Feel free to do so. And here at Allwin, just to mention a couple of things that I do, is that we're working on the lottery and gaming sector. We try to create engaging experiences and innovate on these sectors, and also we try to be at the forefront of the technological advancements. And we have been using VueJS. At this point, we are also trying to see how we're going to approach this migration. Many projects that are also large scale. This is a process that is a bit long and may have many challenges. So I want to share a few things that I found out as tips or things that I want to share about this topic. So at first, we should every project that uses Vue 2. Vue 2 is a version that its end of life was back in December. So many projects that have been using the previous version, they haven't yet migrated. So many companies may have to tackle this issue if they haven't done so. Lucky for those who have started directly from Vue 3, it's going to be a lot easier for them. So why would you need to upgrade in Vue 3? And all of us, basically, if we have been using Vue, is because it has more refined support for TypeScript in case you have been using TypeScript. It has better performance, of course, and we can continue to have better access to the ecosystem. All the packages and the vendors will continue to support the newer versions, of course. And we can have access to the newest features. And it still supports both the Options API and the Composition API, so we can be flexible on that. And it seems like there is a small learning curve in terms of the API usage. There are a lot of things that have changed, but as an experience, it seems that it's a bit small. And a couple of keywords that I want to mention about new features that have been introduced into Vue 3, just for you if you want to look around and start navigating to the new features, is the Composition API, which is the new API. We have been using the Options API in Vue 2. The script setup, which is syntax sugar for using, for writing our templates with the script setup. Teleport in previous version, we have been using some package specific to support that. Right now it's supported. The create render API, the emits component option, which makes more clear what kind of dependencies we have in the events for components. Single file component style scoped rules for slots. TypeScript support, of course, which I mentioned earlier, fragments, and also suspense, which is something we have been using for, of course, it's still supported and experimental, state-driven CSS variables, and also multiple V models. These are a few ones. You can find out more. And of course, the ecosystem has changed. There are newer versions for the Vue router, in case you have been using that. DevTools, newer versions on test utils. Now Vite is the build tool that is being used. And Pinia for the state management, we used to have Vuex for that. Also, a lot of more packages that have been updated, imported packages. And for ID support, there is Volar. Maybe some of you have used the newer version, so this is not something very new, but there's still projects and teams that are using the older version, so could be insightful. And yeah, this is the look of the ecosystem as of now. A few things, of course, many packages have been upgraded, which are not mentioned here. And in order to begin this process for you, a good step is to prepare ourselves. How is our app and understand what, let's say, issues might face during the process. A few tips that I found useful in my case is to identify any repetitive work that can be done in various components. And this will give some insight to create the right abstractions before going into migration so that we can utilize that process in a more clean way and prepare, let's say, the state of your app before going into that. This can be useful a lot. And also you can find out if there's any kind of undocumented behavior. It could be a case that there are properties accessed in a weird way that they weren't meant to be used. They are not part of the public API, but some of us may have done something, and maybe we can find out if there are things that they are not expected or are not documented in a proper, not used through the way that it is suggested on the documentation. So this is a step for you to prepare, let's say, the migration process. It will give you a right guide for how you can navigate to the issues that you may tackle. As a next step, you can try to upgrade all the dependencies of your app and see, just upgrade whatever you can at the latest version. And you will find out soon if you have dependencies that are an issue, if they need to be replaced with some other solution, if there is some kind of package that is available to accommodate that, and let's say just the succeeding package that needs to be used for that. For example, yeah. And also you can, during your development, of course, because this is going to be a long process, you can avoid using, if you can prefer to use features that are supported in the newer version and avoid to use any kind of deprecated features and patterns, of course. And still, this is something I believe it's very useful to create the right abstractions beforehand so that you don't need to face a lot more issues later during the migration process. Of course, if you have a good insight of your sanity check, let's say, of your application, you will be able to find out any commonalities in code and do that in a more easy way, in an easier way. And a big decision for teams is if they want to have, if they are having actually continuous development, let's say it's a live product, and you are on production and you need to migrate to the latest version, what you can do for that. Of course, you need to make a big decision there. If you're able to have a code freeze for a short time so that you can do the migration process and put all your effort there, finish with that and move on. Or if you need to maintain both the live product and also these migration brands that they begin working on that. The second option is going to be a lot more complex. So yeah, it would be best if you can tackle it at once so that you don't have to maintain both, let's say, code bases. And for that, in order to begin with the migration, we can install in our application the Vue migration build to enable the compatibility mode. So this is a package, and you install it on top of the Vue package, and it will provide a transition that's going to be smoother for your application. So what you can expect from it is that it's configurable. Once you enable it, you are able to continue using the components, the Vue 2 components that you have, and you can also, it is in Vue 2 mode by default, so that it can run your components properly. The build is going to run properly, and most of the public APIs behave just like the same in Vue 2. Nothing changes. And of course, it provides you some runtime warnings, which is going to be your baseline for all the work that you will do for the migration process. This is the most important part. And it's configurable also per component. So you might say that by enabling this package, Vue 2 mode is enabled by default. But if you start fixing your components and migrating some of them in Vue 3, then you can configure them each one and have a different configuration. And it's a very good space for practice and learning, because of the runtime warnings, you will identify all the issues, all the changes that have been made into Vue 3. So it's a very good opportunity to do that. And some noteworthy limitations for the compatibility mode. It is, of course, it cannot, if there are any internal APIs changes, dependencies that rely on that, they cannot be detected. Of course, it cannot detect any undocumented behavior, so it's very important to see your code and fix any issues that you may have there if you have been using properties in a weird way. And it doesn't support Internet Explorer 11, so I'm not sure if this is something noteworthy anymore. But yeah. And as a last step, finally, if you want to begin with migration, you can install the Vue 2 package, install the compatibility mode, uninstall any non-compatible dependencies so that you can add them later on and tackle each issue at a time. The first goal for me, for example, when I tried that, was to just have something working, something running, removing any kind of dependencies and tackle one issue at a time. And you can add them later on, of course. And by activating the migration build, you can install, you can configure your components. This is the way that you can install it. You have Vue and Vue Compat all together installed. And you can go to your configuration file and change the alias for Vue so that all your components that use Vue can resolve to Vue Compat at that point. And this configuration can be done. Also, you can update your typing so that you can understand if you have changed, since we have changed the packets that is getting resolved from. And as a next step, you will be able to go and define on your global configuration file which features you will continue to use that are deprecated. So if you start to migrate a couple of components and you have one feature that was totally removed during your migration process, then you can go and disable that feature from the configuration file. And this will affect your warnings so that you can have a better overview of the issues that you need to remain to be resolved. This can be done not only globally, but you can have it on a component level. This is another example of the global configuration, I think. I want to highlight here that you can also switch to the new mode. So if you finally do all the migration process for all your components, then you can finally switch to mode 3, which is the newest version. And the one that I mentioned earlier, that you can also go to each component and have different configuration there. So you can define which features are still being used on that component and which mode you are running that component. I think yeah, this is another example of the configuration file, how it looks like. You can also apply compiler-specific configuration, which means that you altering your rules on how your Vue components are being compiled, and you can add that configuration there. There are a couple of options on how you can add the configuration, depending on what is the need of your project and how you're working on it at that point. And finally, this is an example, I think, of a webpack configuration. Yeah. And this is an example of a Vite configuration. So you would have to set the alias and also have the convert options there enabled. And once you have moved on and enabled this package, you will see all the warnings, as I mentioned earlier. And my approach on that was to tackle all the issues that originate from the source code and then go and resolve all the issues that are related to the packages, the dependencies that may introduce some issues. And one thing that is not recognized from the warnings, and you won't see any warning on your console log about issues that you have, is this one is about the transition class names which have changed. We need to have a suffix added, and change them like this. Let's say this is an example. And you can find them in your source code and just rename them. And in terms of the configuration of your Vue instance, what you will need to do is change the way you instantiate the object. So we used to do it like that with many options, of course. But right now, we just use a create app method that we call and mount into the DOM. So it would look something more like this. And finally, once you've fixed all your components, your code, and migrate it to the newer version of the API, whatever you have chosen, you can go on with the packages, upgrade them one by one, use the latest ones, and finally, when you're ready, you can just uninstall the packages and move just to the Vue 3. Remove the compatibility mode and just keep the Vue 3 package. One tip that I have about the documentation, because I guess when you're migrating to a newer version, you spend a lot of time of understanding what the newer version looks like, is to understand the structure. I really find myself, it's a bit more easier for me, I don't know if it works for everyone, to better understand where can I find the information I need at the time that I want to. So an overview of the documentation is that you have always an example of the Vue 2 version. There's another one on its that has the Vue 3 syntax. And there's also added there on that page the flag that you need to enable or disable in your configuration file. So this is the structure of each page. You will find in Vue documentation all the deprecated features one by one, and the structure of the page will look like this on the information structure. So you have all the information there. And some, for example, removed APIs that this is just a small example, is the filters. We have been using filters before. This is something that was removed. We used to add some method in order to create a filter and displayed it and change, let's say, the string that we wanted. Right now, this an option to just use a computed property in a similar way, just to do this computation that you need to print. And finally, as I mentioned a bit earlier, you can uninstall the compatibility mode package, and you have actually finished all the work, let's say. I hope this was a bit useful. Thank you very much. And we want to share and a QR code if you want to join a raffle that we're going to do at the end of the meetup. Let me move my screen so that you can see the QR code. I think. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, we can take questions from the audience and take questions from the YouTube. So you have some questions about
Yes.
of course.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And how long did it take to make the upgrade? And also, how big was the code base?
Oh, okay. We haven't yet done that. We are at the phase that we are just preparing understanding the steps that we need to make. We did just a dry run, just to see all the issues that we may face and how we can navigate through them. And the code base, I think they're like, I don't know, 500 components, something like that.
Going to ask, is this compatibility also in Next?
Next.
Yeah, can this be used in Next?
So I'm not sure, but you can take the Vite config that Emma shared and put it in your Next config under the Vite object, and it should work. But I haven't tried it.
It would be interesting.
So if we don't have any more questions, we can we do.
Can we
Yes.
share?
Okay, we
we
have.
We have one from YouTube. If you try to migrate Beautify to 3 together with migration Vue to 3.
Can you repeat it? It would help.
If you have tried migrating Beautify to 3 same time.
No, I haven't tried that. No, because we don't use it. But I can remember that it's not like a very challenging process in terms of upgrading it. I don't know if there's some other question behind this.
I think Beautify 2 doesn't work with Vue 3, so you need to just
Yeah,
rewrite.
just upgrade. Yeah. Okay. Maybe.
And just clarify, this is to go from Vue 3 options API to Vue 3 to Vue from Vue 2 options API to Vue 3 options API, not composition API. Everything that you showed us.
Yeah, just that. But in case you want to do this at a time and just rewrite all the components as well, you can do it as well.
Thank you.
Perfect, perfect. So,
One
now
personal
opinion, composition or options?
I don't know. Depends on what you prefer. I prefer the composition API, but I'm using the options API because right now at the project, this is the one that works because we have the second version. I guess we will continue to use that for some time and then move to the composition API. It makes more sense to me.
Well, would it make sense to stay with Vue 2 before starting the migration and start using the composition API that exists as a library for Vue 2 and then move to the whole migration thing? So I think in the latest version of 2, there is the composition
support-
API as an external library.
I would prefer to, because there's a lot of testing that will be involved. I guess doing once the regression testing to all your app, it would be much more cost effective, let's say. So I guess it would be easier to just go to the newer version. And one more question. Yeah.
Well, as I read, the biggest thing that comes with Vue 3 is that you can organize components in the way that they belong to each other. And also, as you mentioned, the performance. Which part you think is the most the best part of upgrading to Vue 3?
You mean if it's more performant or if it's
As of your opinion, what part of Vue 3 you believe that is
strongest, let's say,
Yeah, like
your version?
to
I think
decide to go to version 3?
I think it's like Because right now there was the end of life back in December. I'm not sure if it's an option to stay on U2 anymore. I think there is a company, Hero Devs, that can provide support and SLAs for that. But I guess it would be, in general, more optimal to move to the newest version anyway, regardless of better performance or the much more options that you have with the composition API to organize your code in a better way and have, let's say, more space and free, more options there. Yeah. So that would be my suggestion.
New packages, everything new is coming to V3.
Yes. The
Not
ecosystem has changed, so all the packages and the versions are going to be migrated out. Do we have any other report?
No, we can share the.
Yeah. Okay, so now this goes.
What is the QR code again?
No, we're gonna
Uh,
share.
What is this?
This is for you if you want to join a raffle so that you can win.
One ticket for the CityJS Athens conference, and 2 books for TypeScript for beginners, and one T-shirt from Blanty. Sorry for pronouncing the name of the company wrong, but yeah, we have 4 prizes. So go ahead.
And also you can scan and
Yeah.
if you're watching live, you can scan the code, just send it
Yeah.
mail.
Mhm. The same goes for everyone who's watching this remotely.
We will post it also later on at the end. We can keep it.
Mhm.
Then you can share.
Oh. Is it?
Yeah, but you can share.
I have posted the link in YouTube, so it can.
Okay,
Okay, cool.
nice.
Nice. Thank you, Emma,
Thank
so
you a
much
lot.
for your talk. It was very inspiring. Now, give us a few minutes to set up
Yeah.
the screens for the next talk. So, again, thank you, Emma.
Thank you for the
All good? Are we good? Yeah. Nice, perfect. So now we have the opportunity to have with us Daniel. Daniel was the very first person who approached us when the COVID broke out, and he volunteered to give a talk for the VueJS Athens remotely from UK, right? Yeah, and it was very touching because he did it on himself. Yeah, he approached us and he said, "Yeah, I can give a talk if you want." So now we have the opportunity to have Daniel here in Athens. Let's give a big note. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. I remember that very well, and I don't remember what I talked about, but I really appreciated the opportunity to do it. And actually now it's wonderful to meet people that obviously I've seen online, and obviously people also who are involved on GitHub and collaborate together. It's the joy of open source. And then you get opportunities like this to actually say hi. So my name is Daniel. I lead the Nuxt core team. I'm a full-time open source maintainer. So I don't work for a company. I do a very small amount of consulting, but mostly I'm supported by people and companies who sponsor me. So I have one of the greatest privileges, which is that I get to do what I love, what I was doing as a hobby before all the time. I'm also involved in a few other projects. So whether that is, let's see, pagespeed.dev, you can try it out. It's a shareable way to access the Google PageSpeed Insights and Core Web Vitals APIs. I created something called Magic Regex, which enables type-safe regular expressions, including access to named groups, for example, and they compile away to pure regular expressions at build time. So it should be no reason not to use it. And you can use it on any framework. So Vite, Webpack, RSPack, anything. Fontaine is a library to reduce cumulative layout shift when using web fonts. So it generates font metrics, CSS, and again, any framework, and injects it into your CSS so that the shift is smaller. Help you with those web vitals. I'm on the team building a client for Mastodon, which, if you're not familiar with it, is a alternative social network, so decentralized Twitter. You can think of it like that. You can find out your first commit on GitHub with firstcommit.is, and you can visit my website, roe.dev. I have a few, not a lot, but I have a few blogs, and the whole thing's open source if you spot a way to make it better. And I'll put the slides for tonight there first. That's it. Oh, and please do feel free to contact me any way you like. I'm on Discord and Twitter and Mastodon, and my email's there. And so please get in touch. If you have a question we couldn't talk about tonight, or if you have any other way I can help you, I would love to do that. This is meant to be a picture of my cat. It is not showing, so I will need to show that to you later on. This is the picture of my city. I've just moved to a new place. I now live in Edinburgh, and it's a real pleasure to be there. So I'm just getting used to a new venue. But I will say the weather in Athens is definitely nicer. I'm only regretting the fact that I'm in here for such a brief time. So I arrived in the night 2 days ago, and then yesterday was the conference, and I'm leaving tomorrow morning at 6 in the morning to go back. So it's going to be a harsh adjustment from the sunny skies. Say that it did start raining. It did start raining. So maybe it will help the transition.
Better in some.
Yeah, I bet it will be. But you've got to realize that I'm not used to the sun. So I live in the UK. So if I just come, I'll probably be sort of bright pink. Exactly. Sort of the British style is you arrive somewhere, you don't wear any suntan for the first day, and then for the rest of the trip, you're in agony. That works. So I thought I would introduce Nuxt. Can I just get a quick show of whether you've used Nuxt 3? Like Emma's slides, these are built using SlideApp. Have you come across that? If you ever need to present anything, it's an amazing project by Anthony Vu.
It's coming here.
Yes, for City.js. And basically, I have a little WebSocket server deployed with PartyKit. So when you scan the QR code, it sends a post request to the WebSocket server, which is connected to my laptop view component in my slide deck, and it can show whether you've used Nuxt 3 yet or not. So that's cool. And everyone, how many people are familiar with Nuxt? I'm not assuming that you necessarily would be. Yeah, a few. So basically, it's a framework for Vue. It's a full stack framework, so you can build SPAs, you can build frameworks for the website that doesn't have a server component, but you can also build websites that do have a server component. So sometimes you might use that for a backend for front-end architecture, and Nuxt supports that. And the idea is that you should be able to get started with zero effort. It should do a lot of things for you in the best way it's possible to do them, but then it allows you to configure it. I'm not going to talk mostly about Nuxt tonight. I just thought I'd give you a little intro. I'm going to use it later on. Oops, going back the wrong direction. So I want to talk about a problem. And the problem with apps is it's me. And it's also you. And also Bob. And what I mean is the problem with apps is that the user base for them doesn't, we all might want different things. So the current approach is you have a product owner, someone who has a vision for an application, and you're trying to solve the needs of some people, and you have them in mind. You'll have your user stories, and you'll have a clear idea of trying to solve their problems, and you'll create an app. But it won't perfectly meet the needs of everyone who uses it. People will have niggles with it. Some people simply, it's not the right app for them because they're not in the target audience. So, for example, our current solution for this is just to have lots of different apps. Think about the number of different to-do apps that exist. There is a reason it's a thing that everybody builds as their first project, because what works for one person might not work for someone else. And we typically just accept that as a reality. And think about any other number of things. There are plenty of apps that are similar enough to each other that you think this is the same kind of app, but the user needs are different enough that they need to be different applications. So there is a concept called malleable applications. By show of hands of anyone here who's familiar with, come across, heard the term malleable applications. No, that's great. And the reason most of us haven't heard about them is that this is a theoretical concept that people talked about as long ago as the 80s. And people had this sort of idea, oh, wouldn't it be great if we could have apps that shaped themselves somehow to the user's needs? So rather than like a single monolithic application you create, which has a few settings, not too many because you don't want to confuse people, what if you had an application that was flexible and moldable, malleable, that was a little bit like Play-Doh, so that you could, Play-Doh is a clay that I don't know if it exists outside of the US. But so like what if you had an application that's malleable? So it's actually user first rather than product owner first. It's a different approach to application design. Now it's possible to do this externally. So you can manipulate an app externally. So for example, I could, my web browser is called Arc, and it has the ability to do boosts. So I can create a boost like this, I think. They've changed how you do it. Okay, I can create a boost, and I'll try. I need to do this differently. Basically, with Arc, I can actually change.
I think you should right-click on your tab
When you're open
like that.
on your left. On the slide V. Right click.
There we go. Okay, so here's a boost. And what I can do is I can actually change this website in some kind of way. So imagine you have a website, it has an ad, it has a bit of a site you don't like, you can get rid of it. Zap it. And that's an external way of manipulating an app. So I could do something like that, and that makes my experience better as a user. But honestly, it's quite limited in terms of what I can do. I can get rid of stuff. I can apply styling maybe to a website if you're using something like stylistic. But what if we designed an app internally to be malleable? That's the concept. That's what I'd like to suggest we consider doing more. I'm going to aim to code an app that's malleable tonight. And I'll live code it and we can do it together. But at the end of the day, what I would suggest is not necessarily that you do exactly that, but maybe you adopt a little bit of what it means to have a malleable application. So let's give it a go. Right, so first let's start and create a new Nuxt application, which we'll do with the nuxi command. Oops, hello. Just give me a moment. Let's try it again. There we go. Should have done this beforehand. Could have got my cache nicely filled up. Okay, so we're still installing a new Nuxt app. So we've installed our dependencies and got our stuff going. I will upload this to GitHub later. This is our application. Is that good size for people? Okay. Now, when you start a new Nuxt app, which I will do like this, it's going to open a website. There we go. That is, it loads this app.vue page we have there. And this Nuxt welcome component is provided by Nuxt itself, which just tells you a little bit about how to get started with Nuxt. And we'll just immediately get rid of that and say, hello, Athens. I'm going to install a couple of things, actually, before I get going. I'm going to install something called Pico CSS, and I'm going to, which is just makes it look a little bit nicer. And I'm going to install OpenAI, because what I want to explore is using AI to handle the bit of applying a user's needs to an application. Let's see. There we go. So this app.vue is the entry point of your app. So I'm just going to import, let's see if that's Pico, and we get a nicely, slightly differently shaped thing. It's main. Pico CSS is really cool, by the way. It uses semantic HTML and a very minimal amount of code classes to start stuff for you. So what we're going to do is we want a malleable application. So we want to have a way for the user to manipulate the app, and then we want to have the app itself. So to start with, let's display some data from a GraphQL API. So I've pulled up this. So I don't know what we'll build. Okay, we're doing this together. So here is a list of some GraphQL APIs. Would you have a look with me and give me a shout if you see something you like? So this is an anime and manga GraphQL API. This is a platform for discovering art. We're looking for things probably that have items we can list and display. But if any of these look good to you, country.
Artsy.
Which one?
Artsy.
Art.
Second one.
Artsy. Let's give it a go. This is a bit outdated. Oh, please use v2. Must provide query string. Okay, let's not use that because we need to have a playground where we can build some stuff. See anything else?
Countries?
Countries?
Yes. That's in this.
Okay, this is ideal. Okay. Yeah. Countries seems good. Well, we have a query already, so we'll just use that. Great. So what we want to be able to do is get some data from this. So we can use this using the built-in use fetch composable from Nuxt. So we will do it like this, use fetch. Going to hit, I guess that's the endpoint. And it is going to be a post request, I think. And we'll have a body GraphQL. This is very good. Thank you, Copilot. Okay, this is basically how we do it, right? In GraphQL, that should give me some data. And if let's just check that it's giving me my data back. This one. Let's see. I've got some data. Great. Okay, so we probably want to loop over that. We'll do something like a list. Have some list items before country in. You're not that helpful. I have autosave on, so that's why it's I have invalid syntax and it's displaying it. So data, countries, and we're going to display, I don't know, the country capital. And that should hopefully give me some. Yeah, I probably want a key. We have a country code.
I think it should be lower.
We have data, countries. Oh. We want country code, country capital. Oh, no. It's actually data.data because this is GraphQL. So it's coming back in a data object. So data.data countries, and then boom. Okay. So this is a traditional app that you might build with Vue. You've got it here, and you're doing your query, and the user can't change a thing about it. So the first step we're going to do is enable a Nuxt feature, which is the runtime compiler for Vue. And so we enable it like this. And that ships a slightly different build of Vue, which is going to enable us to do this at runtime. Quite sure. Yikes. Oh, one of these has a null capital, I guess.
Yeah.
So it must be yeah, okay. That country. Who knows what country that is? I thought all countries had capitals, but I might be wrong. So there's this country, which is throwing.
More than one.
There's more than one.
Maybe
What's this? Like, okay, let's explore this with our amazing API here. So what we're going to want to do is I'll do a to-do here. So we're going to put a form that allow user to modify data. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put a component to display the data. And this is going to be a malleable component. So this is going to be reflective of what the user wants. So we're going to create it here. We're going to do a malleable component, and we're going to use a define component. Now, one of the things you'll notice if you're not familiar with Nuxt is that Nuxt auto-imports stuff for you. So when you're using something like define component or ref or use fetch, your IDE knows that these things exist and makes them available to you in your IDE. And then you can basically directly reference them here, and they'll get auto-imported at the point of use. And if you don't like that, you can turn it off, but I quite like it. I hated it originally, but I really like it now. So we are going to, what did I copy? That, okay. So I'm going to use this as a template. It's going to be my template. And I am basically going to move all of this stuff into this little malleable component. So we have got our fetch, and I'm going to pull the query out as well. Like this. And we're going to have our query too. Oops. Okay. So we have a query and we have a template, and this is what we want the user to have control over, or our AI to have control over, right? This is going to enable us to generate an app at runtime. So in here, we're going to, let's actually make this into a single object. So it's going to be a reactive object. And we're going to have that template, and we're going to have a query. And I'm just going to copy this. Okay. Seems reasonable. Now we're not displaying anything because we're not using this. So I'm just going to put it up here. And it's not actually rendering anything either. So we're going to return a render function, which you can do from setup. And that render function is going to render another little component that we're going to construct. Thank you, if this is actually right. So we're going to render the template from here. And then we're going to need to pass in a data function, which you'll be familiar from the composition API. And this should hopefully enable us to render the same data like that. Query is not defined. Oh. Okay. Yeah, okay. So now we have got this little bit strange looking component. And now is the time where we can actually start to do something with AI. By the way, if you've got any questions, feel free to ask me. Or if I miss something, like, okay. So Next ships with a server directory here, which enables us to create server endpoints. So I'm going to create an endpoint called completion. Yes, it'd be a post endpoint. I could add a .post.ts, and that will force it to only accept post. But just I'm going to make it just completion like this. And I have, by the way, snippets turned on for VS Code because it's so convenient to do stuff like you just type API and it does that. If you want to configure them, you can do configure user snippets like this, and you actually get the ability to copy and paste bits of code that you use and tie them to like a couple of letters or something like that. It's amazing in terms of the feeling of productivity. Now, a Next API it uses the framework under the hood, which we built called H3, but other frameworks can use it. And so you can just directly return an object if you want to return JSON data. So if I hit this API completion, you'll see it directly comes back with JSON, it's has the right content type, and so on. And you'll also see if we then reference it in our app, in our Vue component, I'll create an async function, which is basically going to be like updates variables. If I try to get that data, I can use this custom function called $fetch, and it knows about my API, and it also knows the data, like the return type of the API. So if I'm accessing that, I get type safe access to it, which is, I think that's cool. So we need to create that form. So we're going to do that. We'll create a little form here. It's going to have a button, and it's going to say update app. And we should also have like a little input. And it's like, no, that's not great. We're going to say it can be a text input. That's the default though. And just we'll use a V model, I guess, and say request maybe. We'll create a little request. And then we're going to, yeah, that should be good. Okay, we have a little form up there. And we can also use a feature of PKCSS to we can create a little status ref down here. Seems good. Okay, So we have a form, we have our malleable component. Oh, right, and now we need to actually interact with OpenAI. OpenAI, right, seems good. We're going to create a new OpenAI instance. And I think we pass in, we need an API key. And we also, do we need anything else? I think that's all. Now, immediately we have a secret here. The way Nuxt handles secrets is that we have something called runtime config, which allows you to set, and the reason we do this rather than just process.env is because one, process.env won't work on your client in the browser. And two, you might be deploying to something like Cloudflare and not just a node environment. And so we provide an abstraction over the concept of something that might change at runtime called runtime config. So we can do something like OpenAI token like this. And Nuxt actually will prompt me that if I set a Nuxt OpenAI token variable at runtime, that's going to set it. Now, I have created a .env file with my current OpenAI token. And I've done this way so that I don't leak it on the live broadcast and rack up an enormous bill. I think that should be, I trust you all anyway, but like, so that should now pull in automatically, I very much hope.
So sorry. So by default, it creates the environment variable with the name Nuxt
Yes.
underscore. Okay.
So, and the reason is that we don't want to grab it from, so it's a convention. Initially, so you can override every property of runtime, your runtime config, including top level ones. So for example, we have for runtime config that you want to expose to the browser. By default, runtime config is private. This is for your tokens. We don't pass it to the browser build. If you want to expose something to the browser build, you have something called public here. And initially, when we didn't have a Nuxt prefix, on Windows, there's a variable called public, which was overriding the runtime config. And it basically broke all Windows builds, which is why we added the prefix, for what it's worth. You also get type-safe access. So what we're going to be able to do is use runtime config. And you see the available variables here. So this is OpenAI, and we actually have token, so we can pull it in. And we want to do something with this OpenAI. We want to get some completions, but first we're going to need to access the data from the other side. So we are going to use something called read body. One of the things we've tried to do is on the server side, not just the client, use the same kind of new view pattern, which is composables. So just as you access a reactive object by calling reactive in view, you can access server functionality by calling little individual functions like read body, which means that if you don't use them, they're not in your build. They actually can be tree shaken out, which enables us to build like a different kind of framework. So it can have lots of functionality because not all of it will be included, only the bits you use. So tiny little functions that do things. And because we auto import, it means you don't have like a list of 20 things before you start reading the code. So we're going to access the body. And we are going to need a prompt and the current state of the app, which will be malleables. So what we want to do in our app is basically fetch this. It's going to have to be a post request. Now, at the moment, it's actually allowing anything. So let's just change that and make this a .post because we have to get it from the body. And so now it's actually only going to allow me to create a post method. And we're going to have the body, and we wanted what? Prompt and malleables. So the prompt is going to be, I'll just rename this. And F2, by the way, is great because it now renamed it up there as well. So I have a prompt and accept value, and then I'll have malleables, which is just our reactive object. Okay, so this is going to pass everything I need to the server, and I'll just wire it up to the form. Okay, that should actually start doing something. And let's just check that it is. I know there are better ways. Yeah, okay, so it worked. It submitted something. So let's create a, let's get something useful. So we want to have, this is great. Okay, it's not quite right, but like we can, like you see, TypeScript tells it's not right. We want, let's see, completions. Who here does stuff with OpenAI? Anyone? No? We're going to create a new, I think it's completions. No, it might be chat completion. Ah, that's right, chat completions. Create. And we're going to need to do some, this is fantastic. Okay, so that seems like a reasonable model. I'm not going to care about those. We are going to need to draft some messages that will tell it what to do. So I'm going to say something like, you are a AI whose job is to manipulate a Vue application to suit the needs of its user. You only speak JSON. That's going to work. And then we're going to say the current state of the application is JSON stringify. I'm going to make that JSON stringify malleables. Yeah, let's make it pretty. Seems good. And then the user's prompt. And then we basically need something like print the new state of the application in JSON format. Okay. Well, let's just test that OpenAI is configured first and just say this. Role system content, tell me a joke. And we're going to return what? Joke is that right? Seems it might be. At the endpoint. No. Oh, I have to post, right? Post. Okay, we've got a joke. So now let's hope that this prompt that we've written is going to work. And we're going to get back malleables. And we're going to try to parse this. This is going to go wrong, isn't it? Like, I'm going to just lie to TypeScript. Okay, it's definitely going to exist and parse it. Like, don't do this in production app. I just hope it's working. Okay, so we'll have some data. And what we want to do is basically, in, what is it, template query, set the data. And we can add that pending thing. And thank you. This is why Copilot is beautiful. And to do add error handling. You always write error handling first time, don't you? I thought you looked very sensible. Okay, let's see if this works. Probably won't. Oops. Let's see if it's going to work. So please format the data in a table. No, that did not work.
Is the CSS working to make it a table?
I think a very good thing to do is actually if we just display like the malleables template. Let's see. This is the template we have. Please format the data in a table. Is that going to change at all? Oh, because we're just getting data, it's coming back in an object called malleables. So, right? Yeah, that's what's coming back. Let's try that one more time. It's important to say please whenever you're talking to an AI, so that when the uprising comes, they remember. No errors. Thinking. Really is thinking a long time. Is there oh, there's an error. Cannot access malleables before. Oh, right. Okay. Body. It's going to be body malleables. Let's try that. Yeah. Please format data as a table. Come on, people. It's all we want. It's not much. I think that's from before. Let's get rid of that. Now it's do it again. Why? What's going on? Body malleables. Okay, what happened? Let's see this. Let's see this data. Fetch.
You debug the body.
Malleables. Yes, exactly. So hopefully now I have a list. Malleables, query and template. That's good. There's a table there. So why isn't this updating? So what did I do? In here I said for key in of, please. Can't believe none of you told me that. Like, honestly. I said we were going to do this together, but I feel very much on my own. Okay. Update to be a table, please. Just crossed. Yes. Okay. So let's try doing some more things. So currently we are, like the query we've got is what? That. So let's say, would you display the country name as well? It's not working. Well, that's, I guess there's none. Let's try it again.
Don't think the JSON to the country name.
You're right. Okay. I'll just reset that. Would you format this as a table with the emoji next to the country name? I'm just at this point hoping. Okay, we've got now it's actually given us now the country. No, this is the capitals. You're right. No, yeah. And we have the emoji is being put there. It's not quite right. Could the emoji come first, please? I missed the please. Okay, so the emoji is first. Would you bold the country capital and add another column for the country name? Okay, so it does say capital now, and there is a country name. I guess there just isn't one. Let's see, what else might we want to do? Would you display the AWS region as well? And tell us as it. Cool. Would you make it a list now? Now, I hope that you see what we're doing here. Like, this may or may not work. I mean, at some point there might be a failure, and I definitely wouldn't advise doing this, just throwing the whole app up there so the user can access it. But isn't this something that might be interesting to play with? Like expose little bits of your app, like a color theme. And we also haven't done anything to save this or persist it in case there was an error coming back. We're just relying on the fact that the JSON is working. But there might be some things you could do around that. And you might be able to find little delighters where you could make your app more malleable for the user and enable this kind of interaction without actually requiring a product owner to drive a new feature or something, I think it's worth having a look. Let's put it up. So we will push this. And publish it.
Does it work with Greek language, the same as in English?
Ooh, now that's interesting. I have no way of testing that. And I'm not sure even you do if you came to my keyboard. We might have to set it up for a bit first. But that should we give it a try? We could. Okay. I bet it might. Okay, so I'm just going to then translate. Going to say translate from English to Greek. So we're going to say
So what?
make it a table, please. Is that a reasonable translation?
Oh, it creates a thing, yeah.
Make it. What's the right word?
But maybe.
Like, okay, how am I going to do this? Make it. We want set the table. Oh, I see. Let's see. Please bold the AWS region.
Okay.
You didn't say please.
It did it. So again, it might be quite a useful thing to explore. But I think this is in the interest of inclusivity because there are users, which is also in the interest of whatever product or company you're working with, because it means that you have more people who will be able to enjoy the app, feel attached to it, interact with it, and be included in the group of people who can actually use it. If you're interested, I've talked for a long time, and I am sorry about that. But if you're interested, there's some further reading you can do. So that the talk there is great. Alexandra and I have collaborated on a couple of things related to malleables, and she's fantastic. So have a look at it. If you're interested in Nuxt, which is obviously what we use to build, you can access the docs, and if you want to, and there's a couple of social media handles if you want to do that as well. And there's a Discord server, chat.nuxt.net, if you've got questions. And please remember, you can contact me at any time if I can. So any questions will help. One thing I should mention this as well. If you want to be involved in open source, if you want to, and that doesn't necessarily mean Nuxt, I'd love to chat to you, see if there's anything I can do to help. Maybe you've got questions about what it's like, or maybe you feel like you're maybe not exactly the same kind of person that you see when you look at the maintainer list of an organization. I mean, you'd be really welcome to contribute, and I'd like to tell you that face to face. But yeah, I've got if you go to my website, roe.dev/chat, I created a little short link for it. It will take you to my blog, and you can book a 10-minute call in my diary anytime you like. That would be great. Really welcome to do it. And I think that's it for me, other than I guess maybe we can have some questions. Yeah, there's no more slides. Any questions?
Regarding the presentation?
Regarding anything. Like it can come totally out of left field, like any question.
Yeah, I have, but mostly about the security and the communication with the APIs. Yeah. What's your best approach? Because there are many. Like which type of authentication, OAuth, JWT, how to save the keys, where to save. With the Nuxt, the good thing is that you have the server side. That's how you hide your API calls with different domain. If you make requests to different domains and you want to safely done it, what's your approach? Which is the best way? What you advise?
So it depends a lot on your needs. Obviously, I would use server for anything that is secret. So all your tokens need to be exposed only to your server and not to the client, as long as they are secret tokens. there are plenty of services that have a client-side token like that can be exposed.
When need rotation or
So,
of the tokens.
so what kind of thing are you protecting with the token?
Well, the basic as of JWT that everyone was saying is that it's not so secure. That you expose data, so you need to change it.
So you're talking about authenticating access to your own API.
Yes.
So, by the way, just in case it's helpful for you, Nuxt does have a built-in session store, so you can access it like this. We have user. You can. Yes. Wait. That's right. No. Oh yeah, get session is correct, but we have to pass a configuration object.
That's
We'll have-
session of node, right? The session is of node of the server side.
This session is a cookie-based session that encrypts data. Obviously, don't hard code your password. So something like this is going to, when I request it, what is that? User. It's going to set a cookie, which is a secure cookie and has any data, and you can set it and read it back later. So for example, what I could do is when the user loads my app, and this is, by the way, it doesn't answer your question, and I know that I'm coming back to it, but this is just quite a cool thing that you can do, where you can write data and keep this persistent data and access it using an ephemeral server. So your server doesn't have to be even the same instance that responded to the initial request. You can have this persistent secure data stored in a session cookie. It's like iron crypto.
It's on the client side though.
So you can't access this. This is on the client. This is only on the server. But obviously the browser will send a cookie on every request to your server. So you'll keep it. You'll keep being able to access it.
Like encrypted fast data on the client side.
Yeah.
So you can decrypt it only on the server.
On the server.
Okay.
I mean, for JWTs, I think I'd probably advise something. I think best practice is typically to have a JWT and also a refresh token. So the JWT tends to be short-lived, and you have a refresh token, which enables you to get a new JWT. So you can, and then it's scoped only to allow you to do that. So I mean, but I think JWTs are a very reasonable way of securing access to your API. But obviously, it depends on your use case hugely. Again, you don't want to make it really inconvenient for your users, but it's like to have to re-log in every time they access something. I think wherever you have, I think I would be implementing authentication these days. Passkeys, which are supported, mobile phone, browser. They're forgeable. They can't be used on a different website, only on yours. So there's a lot of really great positives about them.
Laravel is using CRF token, which you log in and just generate a cookie, which uses the same thing.
So I mean, this is something you could do, for example, using the session config here. So you could set something in the session config and basically say, for the completion, check that item is set. So you can access it like session data, and so if the data is there, the token, then you perform the OpenAI completion request. Otherwise, you don't, and that would enable you to add a level of protection for your OpenAI completion endpoint. But all of these things can be got around, right? Somebody can request your website, grab the CSR token, and send it back. There's by the way, I didn't mention, but Nuxt is very extensible. Maybe I mentioned that. So there's a whole set of modules that let you do lots and lots of things to it. So hundreds of them, and there is a like this module. Let's see. So if you want to add that to Nuxt, you can do it just by adding this module. And we have, so I think you could do it like this. I think I somehow
That's to say the CSRF token easily, right?
So we have DevTools. I haven't mentioned Nuxt DevTools. Has anyone used them? So basically, alongside your Nuxt app, you can access a lot of information about it and how it works, such as the routing structure, the components that are used in your app, and other things too. But one of the nicest things is that you can add Nuxt modules like this. So I mentioned that there's that library. If we added CSU, and it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to add it to the modules list, and it's going to install it from npm. And so that's just going to be able to happen in the background while I'm even still looking at my app. And then once that's downloaded, it's going to restart Nuxt and add it to my Nuxt config. So obviously I need to check out the docs for it, see what it's going to do, what's going to work. And clearly it's broken something with my app. Probably see what's it done. But that is quite a nice thing to be able to do, to directly mention it. I should probably check out the CSRF documentation. Probably has some config I need to set. Yep, it adds CSRF token and headers to that. Oh, this is, I think, because so I have a CSRF production now. What is
Nice.
any other questions?
Other than asking for changes like make a table or make a list, can you ask it to make a button doing something like highlight the countries that are in Europe, for example?
Yeah, let's try this. I need to have the challenge is, in order to do a lot of these things, you need to have the right kind of CSS. So I'm going to grab it from this endpoint here, because this is just for fun, because we're doing this for fun. I'm going to add a CSS script to my head, and it's basically like this. So I've added Tailwind to my site, as well as Pico CSS. But now I can do things like, please format this as a table with a button in each one, let's say a blue button in each one, saying edit, blue button in each row.
Something went wrong.
I feel that too. Oh, CSRF token mismatch. I see how it is. Install a module. What did I even type? Let's see. Format this as a table, please, with a blue button in each row saying edit. Okay, so I've got my blue buttons. And let's make them the buttons red, bold, and round. Okay.
Icon.
I don't, so they're red now. Like, so you can, if you have got CSS classes, Tailwind is great for this because ChatGPT, and this is also why I used GraphQL. So GraphQL is well known. It can be inferred from the schema. So if I put the fact that I gave it a query means it can like modify that query if needed, which is why we were able to use any GraphQL endpoint. And the fact that Tailwind is so widely used means, again, the ChatGPT is going to be able to come up with reasonable Tailwind classes to do anything that I want. Having said that, I'm not sure I would be using ChatGPT to like I'd probably, if I were shipping this to production, I'd probably create a custom model to do this. I'd probably be training it, I'd probably be or using something like LangChain to actually make it quite targeted for my need, and not just using a chat format. Other questions?
So I think maybe you just answered the question. What other kinds of interactions would you imagine that the user could have with a malleable app instead of just the textual?
So the malleable apps, so there's obviously a limit to what you expose, and you have to be quite explicit about what the API is. The thing about GraphQL and Tailwind is the API is basically unbounded. You can do anything. But if you have functions, for example, and you want these things to be wired up to things that your app does, you can add that as part of the prompt or as part of the malleable, and actually do things like the following function. You could just add a line that says something like the following functions are available to be called within the app, and then like
the interaction of the user would be through prompt through prompts.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Orally or I don't know, via thought.
They could be, yeah, it could be through a prompt. I think, imagine you were doing something that was UI related. So again, I would try as much as possible to scope down the feature. You want it not to be able to break your app. You want to be able to store it. You want it to have a nice experience. So try something like theming your app or something. Like so for that, you might do something like have some CSS variables and allow the content of the CSS variables to be manipulated. But then you have your own app which like respects those CSS variables. You have normal cascade. That's your API with the AI change. And so basically you could do something like rather than have the full prompt, just ask the user to enter like a word or 2 words to inspire the theme. And then you take that, you generate the variables, you have to validate the data, check that they are in fact like reasonable colors. You might also be able to validate the data in terms of accessibility. Like the contrast needs to be this. And you might also be able to specify that in the prompt and validate it coming back. So like you would add quite a lot of guardrails around it. And then you would basically be able then to apply those to your CSS variables and preserve them and save them as like a new theme that the user can switch on and off. So that would be maybe a way of doing it. And yes, like a full prompt like this is probably not the way to go. But like managing it so it's a tiny cool thing that the user can just type coral and it generates a color theme that is coral. Or maybe you might think, for example, if you were displaying data, rather than just letting the app be fully recoded in terms of the runtime compiler, you might again expose some primitives. Like we've got a pie chart, a bar chart, a graph chart. We're displaying data on of like these items. And so you just allow it to be selected from a known list. But again, even if it's a known list, across enough dimensions, it's too many possibilities to let a user pick. But if you have an AI do it,
That's a good thing that you can take data and represent the data, calculate it, graphs, pies. Yeah, it's really good.
and again, by having the AI not actually do the calculation, but provide like just give you the connector, you're still getting valid data at the other end. Hopefully.
We can also take questions from YouTube. If there are any questions from YouTube. Done, right? Done. Okay, cool. So thank you again. Thank you, Daniel.
We really
Okay, maybe we're now good. Yes.
Okay,
Can they?
perfect.
Okay.
Okay, share your screen.
Okay, let me share my screen so that we can do the Athens and
Perfect.
okay. And also let me move this so that everyone can see also from here that my screen is not busy. Okay,
Nice, nice. So we're gonna put the very first prize, which is the ticket to the CityJS Athens conference. So good luck to everyone. And yeah, let's go. Who's the first winner? Alex Coxis. Is it here? Is he here? Sorry. Alex? Maybe he's online. Okay, Alex, you want a ticket?
we'll go to the next.
Yeah, let's go to the next prize. The next prize is a TypeScript Bible. Okay, sorry.
Book.
Book. Nikos Manusakis. Nikos Manusakis is here. No?
But
Okay, online.
is it
Okay.
the correct one? The correct.
Okay, Nico, you want a book, a TypeScript book. Okay, let's go to the
Another
next.
one.
Yeah.
Another book for the same book.
Okay, Oana Straw, are you here? Online as well. Okay.
This is the new JSON for sure. Can you
Yes.
check?
I just downloaded today.
Okay, and let's move on to the last prize, the T-shirt.
Okay.
Just to be inside. Understand?
Michael Hoffman. Is he here now? Okay. Nobody here won anything, right?
Bad luck.
Okay, okay, this is bad luck.
Can
But
you check again?
congratulations to these
Yes.
guys for winning. And yeah, this is it.
Oh.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
This is
Okay, we
Let's
will
do
have
it
to do it one more time because I cannot see it.
Ah, you okay.
Sorry for that.
Okay.
Also, much. Sorry. It's okay.
And we still works.
this was the dry run. That's the
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, is sticking.
Okay, wrong form. Sorry for that. It's going to be
We got
big.
another chance here, at least.
Yeah.
Okay, I opened the wrong form. So probably it's this one. Okay. The 12 meetup. We have 19 responses.
19 responses. Okay, perfect.
Okay. Just one more round. And then we can have drinks and meat.
Okay.
If you're here, you buy a drink to the organizers.
No, no, no. No worries.
Okay, so I think let me open the CSV first to check the timestamps.
Yeah.
Just to be sure. Okay, it's good now. I need to go here.
The phrase.
Press. It's empty. Go here.
Because one second will be waiting.
Okay, and drop it. Okay,
Okay, let's go again. Fingers crossed.
yeah, no, it's
Okay,
it's
for the
right.
first prize,
Let's see.
Vasilis Totskas. Are you here? Okay. You want a ticket to the CityJS Athens conference? For the first book. Dimitris?
Hey,
Oh,
Dimitris,
okay.
this is yours. Thanks.
This is validation online,
Thank
in person.
Oh,
Nikki Altani. Oh, you won the thing.
where did we find the books?
Oh, and very well.
Sorry, yeah, and the t-shirt, who
Yeah,
won
it's
it?
perfect.
Oh, perfect, nice. So, this is it. Thank you everyone for being here. Do you like the back of the shirt, right? Thank you everyone. So, thank you everyone for being here. Again, the sponsors, Alwyn and City Athens JS, City JS Athens, sorry, and for giving us the t-shirts, the ticket, and also the books for TypeScript. Hope everyone make it to the conference this summer, the City JS Athens conference. And yeah, let's have food and drinks and connect. Yeah. Thank you again, everyone. It's a wrap.